Well, hey, friends, welcome to today's Daily Cup of Encouragement. Did you know that next Monday is Indigenous Peoples Day? I heard that in a meeting last week and proved my oblivion. Now, I know that's not a real word, but I'm lobbying for that. But I proved my oblivion by never having heard of Indigenous Peoples Day. Yes, there are things I don't know. Shocking. I grew up with this little rhyme. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. We were taught, at least in my memory, that Christopher Columbus discovered America in 1492. Of course, we found out later that Columbus might not have been such a heroic character, and that the people groups who had lived here for thousands of years, the indigenous peoples, were surprised to have been discovered. So for the past few years, there's been a push to recognize and validate those who were here before the European exploration, immigration, invasion, or any other words that have been used, began to displace them. Hence the growing trend of states, cities, and municipalities who have opted for Indigenous Peoples Day in lieu of Columbus Day. Now, my 10 minutes of extensive research, I am mostly an opinion columnist, not an investigative journalist, led me to discover that 7 states, Alaska, Hawaii, Maine, New Mexico, Oregon, South Dakota, and Vermont, have officially replaced Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day. 7 more states, Iowa, Louisiana, Michigan, Minnesota, North Carolina, Virginia, and Wisconsin, plus Washington, D.C., celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day by proclamation, and 2 states, Alabama and Oklahoma, celebrate both Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day. And my purpose in this post today is not to comment on the merit of such a change or to invite politics into the discussion, especially since politics apparently needs no invitation, much like Columbus and the other European explorers and immigrants from whom I am descended, and for which I do not feel compelled to apologize over 500 years later. That was simply an acknowledgement. My point today is that there are people around us, many of whom have roots that run much deeper than ours, that do not speak our native language. And by native language, I mean much more than English. I mean that their cultural understanding, habits, and deep sense of identity all come from a different place. One of our challenges is how we communicate truth, goodness, and character in a way that they can understand. As one who has made my living in some kind of church work for the past 43 years, full time for the last 32, one of my primary tasks has been finding common ground to demonstrate the compassion and love of Jesus in order to earn the right to tell the truth of Jesus to those who do not share my own spiritual heritage and history. The preacher that I heard this past Sunday reminded me of a great Bible incident that was recorded in Acts chapter 2, verses 5 through 12. Now there were staying in Jerusalem God-fearing Jews from every nation under heaven. When they heard this sound, a crowd came together in bewilderment because each one heard their own language being spoken. Utterly amazed, they asked, "Aren't all these who are speaking Galileans? Then how is it that each of us hears them in our own native language?" Then it's a couple of verses later, it says, "We hear them declaring the wonders of God in our own tongues." Amazed and perplexed, they ask one another, "What does this mean?" Now, I don't have the time or the space in this context to unpack all that. My point is that there are things that I believe to be absolutely true. They're not true because I believe them. And they are not untrue because someone else doesn't believe them. Truth doesn't work that way. But I can forfeit my opportunity to share those truths if I insist that people adopt my culture and heritage or become like me before they can accept truth that transcends culture and heritage. I have to meet people with the love and compassion of Jesus where they are and learn to communicate truth in a language they can understand. And I have to acknowledge that they have just as much right to be here as I do. Who are these peoples? They are peoples that God loves immensely. Be amazing today, my friend.